Alright, so today we will be talking about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. This is by me, Lily Hesano, and there's a picture of the building being sprayed with water. This happened in March of 1911 in Greenwich Village in New York City. This was obviously a factory, and it was one of the deadliest industrial disasters in U.S. history. These women sat at tables with sewing machines, producing blouses known as shirtwaists. They were very popular blouses that a lot of people wore at the time. And as you can see, they were packed in like sardines. And the conditions were obviously, it was a really packed place, and they worked 11 to 12 hours a day, every day a week, pretty much. They were young Jewish immigrants. They tended to be who did not speak English, obviously, and they just spent these brutally long days at tables producing, and these were not exactly the safest working conditions because they had to deal with these sewing machines. What happened is that people think that a fire started in a bin of cotton scraps, most likely by a cigarette butt, because a lot of people smoked at the time. But there's other theories that maybe a sewing machine heated up and that's what sparked it or something like that, but they're not exactly sure still. There was no sprinkler system, and even though the firefighters did show up, their sprinklers could not reach to the store they were at. There was a fire escape, but it collapsed, which caused the women on the fire escape trying to escape to die. And there was one working elevator out of 4, but that ended up not working because of the fire, and women were jumping in the elevator chute, and they obviously died as well. They could not get out because they were locked in by factory management. They did not want them taking any smoke breaks because they thought that they wanted them to be productive and not have any breaks, so then they'd get the most work done. And they also didn't want union activists coming in and disrupting the workplace. They just wanted to make the most profit as possible and make sure they were always most productive as possible, obviously. Fire hoses could not reach the top floor, which I mentioned, and the technology just wasn't there yet. What happened? This all happened in just 18 minutes. 146 people died. And this happened because they had to jump to their death, most of them. And people were absolutely traumatized because it was like raining women on the streets of New York. This was the second deadliest industrial disaster in the United States, second to 9/11. How it helped? This actually was a painfully good lesson. It helped to redefine industrial workplaces, and it just called people to notice the need for labor unions and to be protected in the places that they're working with fair wages and fair conditions and healthy conditions. And it helped to develop things like the ILGWU, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, to just make sure they were protected. And there's pictures of women at a protest after that happened. The Sullivan-Hoey is a fire prevention law requiring sprinkling systems, which obviously they didn't have, and that probably would have prevented what happened, most likely. And it just overall called for unions and safety, and it led to a lot of protests, and so this tragic loss it's a horrifying story, but ultimately it made people realize some really important things that needed to be done. Alright, so that's my presentation on the Shirtwaist Factory Fire, and I hope you learned something valuable. This is one of my favorite history events because I think it's pretty interesting. Thanks for watching.